Ghost with Cats, Chapter 26, The Lottery Drug. Yuri and Sharon were both conscious again. Yuri was cussing in some weird mix of Yiddish, Hebrew, and an Eastern European language Annie didn't know yet. Sharon was shaking. She'd thrown up at least twice. Annie gave her some juice, then took her upstairs and changed them both quickly out of their dresses and into jeans and hoodies. She was trying to tie Sharon's cross trainers, but her hands kept shaking. Suddenly the power went out. Downstairs, they could hear Yuri and Boaz swearing in the darkness. Vorn was at the door. "The entire canal has gone dark, my lady." "They're coming. Get Sharon to safety. I'll lure them away," Annie retorted sharply. "No, Annie, you can't. Not by yourself," Sharon insisted. And I can take care of myself." "Sharon, I have some training for this. You have none. Vorn is a trained protector. If I know he is protecting you, then I won't be scared for you. Tall is safe with Breeze. Yuri and Boaz can fend for themselves, drunk, drugged, or both. I need you to do this for me. I need you to let Vorn protect you. Please, Sharon." Annie begged and hugged her. "I don't have any other real friends." "You're the only one I have, too," Sharon responded, hugging her back. "Please, please be careful. I can't lose you, too." "I'll meet up with y'all at the St. Mary cottage tomorrow. Noonish?" Annie asked Vorn, who nodded. Then gunfire erupted downstairs. Sharon froze, but Vorn pulled her against the wall, with his Glock drawn. He was glad Annie insisted on taking all the weapons from the men who attempted to attack them in Colorado. It provided them with a small arsenal. Annie stepped out first and dropped the two coming up the stairs with 2 headshots. "Go!" Annie waved them across the hall to the room with a balcony. Bourne saw no one between the house and the river. He held Sharon in his arms as he jumped down the 2 stories from the balcony, thanking the light for the weaker gravity on this world. Sharon squeaked in surprise and hugged his neck tighter as he bolted for the small boat on the river with faster-than-human speed. Annie put up a huge show of resistance, drawing the attackers to the house next door. The elderly couple that was next door pretending to be the dead Adams had vanished. Between Annie, Yuri, and Boaz attacking those swarming the house, none noticed Vorn taking the small boat with the quiet motor upriver with Sharon. Annie whistled shrilly twice, then she, Yuri, and Boaz escaped on motorbikes out the garage door of a house over the third of Annie's secret properties. They went in 3 different directions. Their attackers hesitated to try to decide who to pursue before chasing Yuri and Boaz. Pulling off the road, after she almost laid her dirt bike down, Annie put on a mylar-lined thermal poncho. She set off a dozen 20-pound pyrotechnics stashed along the canal road over the bay to obscure any satellite thermal images. She drove on, almost wrecking a second time before she abandoned the motorbike in the brush outside of town, deciding she would be less likely to maim or kill herself on foot. She vomited again, almost passing out. Her nerves were shot, and the drugged wine made her want to collapse, but her rules and her will wouldn't let her. They pulsed repeatedly in her muddled consciousness with every step as she jogged the rest of the way to the old church. It was a strange sense of deja vu of her time with the NSA and after, but all she wanted was to be a ghost again. Fireworks were going off all over the area as midnight approached. She noticed more of their pyrotechnics going off and smiled. Yuri and Boaz had escaped, one to Matagorda Beach and the other to the Old Town Harbor District. A few cars passed, but none noticed her off the road. She was safe for the moment. She hoped the others were too. Brees, Annie whispered the sword pet's name as she opened the door of the old Baptist church, worried when he didn't answer. It was dark downstairs, but she could see his bulky form leaning against a wall. The jog upriver to the town sobered her up, but she still felt shaky, and worse, she felt panicky. "You okay, Shinyhead?" she whispered in the darkness. "Wine makes Brees sick. Worse than coffee," he groaned. "I know. The wine was drugged. Drink some water and eat some crackers, and go to sleep. I'll keep watch," Annie told him, giving him a bottle of water and a package of soda crackers. The very ill-looking giant took them. She felt bad for Brees as he ate and drank before he dozed on the floor. She wrapped a blanket into a pillow and placed it under his head. He squeezed her hand as she held it. She knew he was built for war, but in her heart she felt like he was the kid brother she never had, and he shouldn't be in this situation, running for his life from trained mercenaries. He was still a child, only 8 years awake after being taken from his gestation chamber. Paul was asleep on a fold-out bed in another room. Annie knelt next to him, feeling his head. He was feverish and shivering. It was odd, because he told her temperature changes didn't affect his people. She frowned and pulled another bottle of water out of her pack. Whatever was in the wine was affecting the Eloh far worse than the humans. She hoped Vorn and Sharon were okay. "Tal, wake up, Tal." Slowly he opened his eyes. She brushed his hair aside. "Can you drink some water? You need to hydrate." He nodded, gulping from the bottle and coughing a little. "I feel so sick." The wine was drugged. "I puked twice already. We thought you were going to toss your toenails before you passed out." "Vorn did some cipher thing and beat it. I think he and Sharon got away. Yuri and Boaz split up. I don't know where they are exactly either, but they did get the pyrotechnics set off to blind the satellites. We sent Brees to bring you here first. I'm so sorry. We shouldn't have gone to Sharon's party. The people next door weren't who they said they were," she explained. "I don't remember." "That's normal," she tried to reassure him. She had no idea what a normal reaction for him would be. "Annie, I did not try to hurt you, did I?" "You would tell me if I did." He sounded so worried, so concerned. She frowned in the dark and wiped his forehead with a paper towel, wondering why he would ask such a thing. It scared her a little bit. He wouldn't really hurt me, would he? She thought. "Nope, you just asked me to come home with you and be everyone's mother and sister, and then threw up a lot." he said with a nervous laugh. She didn't want to tell him he freaked her out a little bit. She stood up and started to turn back to check on Breeze, who was snoring. Trembling, Tall reached up and pulled her onto the mattress with him. He was incredibly strong. At first, she thought he was just going to hug her for a while, but then his weight half crushed her. As they lay side by side, she could feel his arousal as he rubbed his body against hers, and she began to have a panic attack. She needed to stay calm and rational, but her fear was winning. Tall, you need to rest. Let go so I can get up, she said as calmly as she could. No, I need to hold you. I need to be close to you, he murmured, and gave her ear a small nip. His arms tightened around her as she pushed against them. I have to go keep watch. Let go, she begged. Her heart was starting to hurt. It was pounding so hard as she panicked. Her fear was taking over. She was losing control. Her rules were not helping. No one is near. Stop moving and lay still. He was nuzzling her hair by her ear. She could feel his breath on her neck as he licked her. His body pressed down heavily against the length of hers, his leg and arm over her. You are so soft, so sweet. His words slurred as he passed out again. She could see how pointed his nails had become as she trembled in fear. She realized what one of the drugs in the wine must have been, or at least the effect it was having on Tall. It was the lottery drug, given to the Eloh males to force the urge to mate. Her paranoia went crazy as she struggled just to breathe normally. It shouted, "The one I love is going to hurt me, just like before." Only it was going to happen this time, because he was not going to be able to stop himself. He had been drugged to cause it to happen. She couldn't free herself from him. He was too strong, too heavy. Her worst nightmare was about to begin again. A small sob escaped her lips. Terrified, she whispered over and over, "Please let me go. Please, please let me go." When he didn't, she closed her eyes. Tears came and she retreated into her mind like the last time, because it was her only way to escape. Time stopped as her memories of that week flooded back into her thoughts. She was terrified, and all she could do was wait for it to happen again. His awareness returned slowly. Tall became very still. He was holding Annie's rigid but trembling form against him. Even in his drugged state, he realized the extent of her terror. The smell of it made him feel sick. He could see his hands, see his nails, and he swallowed. She was so afraid because he had changed into his predatory form. He ran his tongue over the inside of his gums and teeth, and he inhaled sharply as he tasted ink with another aftertaste. Suddenly he realized what one of the drugs in the wine must have been. He fought to regain mastery over his body, doing everything Vaughan taught him about how to resist the lottery drug's effects. Slowly, his body became his own to control. He did not know how long they laid like this, him crushing her, trapping her after he lost consciousness. But he knew in his heart that she feared the worst would happen. "I would never do that to you. Even now, after they gave me the lottery drug, I would not. Do you understand, Annie?" he insisted. She didn't answer. He felt her body trembling harder with her fear. "Annalise, answer me, please," he begged, and managed to raise up to look down at her. It made the room spin. "I promise I will not hurt you. I will never hurt you. You are the light of my soul. I love you. Please look at me." She had been crying. Tears were drying on her cheeks, but she didn't move or respond, only clutched her hands on the shoulders of her hoodie with her eyes clenched shut. Her fear was overwhelming her fear of him. He could feel it, smell it, almost taste it, and it hurt like physical pain. Paul didn't know what to do. He didn't have Vorn's training to reach her mind and bring her back. He couldn't even feel Vorn for the first time since he was 15. He pushed up off the bed. Free of his weight, Annie contracted into a ball. It was almost like a spasm. Their enemy intended him to attack her. If he were not trained to resist the drug given to the males during the lottery so he could fight and survive, he might have done just that. Staggering to his feet, he stumbled to the door. Tal spat because the taste in his mouth was horrible. Looking at her, he held on to the door frame. He wanted to be joined with her more than anything, and he wanted to ink her even more than that. He reminded himself, "I am not an animal," over and over. Instead of mating, he needed to find a way to rescue her from her fear and himself from his drug-induced desire. They were in trouble if they were attacked now, because they could not defend themselves. He half crawled up the stairs. They were in a church, and he didn't know how he got there. The windows were tall and arched, but it was obvious it wasn't what it had once been. He needed Vorn, but he needed Annie to take him to Vorn, because he didn't know where he was, and he couldn't feel his cipher to summon him. He was so confused, more than any other time he had been given the lottery drug. Tal knelt in front of the altar and prayed to the one who created all, as his brother True taught him, forcing himself to focus on the truth of his situation to know what to pray for. "Holy One, my name is Vanth Tal, and I am one of the 12 defenders of the kingdom of Eloh. I am the youngest ever to be made an Admant, the greatest warrior of my people, undefeated in battle. But at this moment, I am weak and helpless under the influence of intoxicants of 2 worlds. I am defenseless to save myself or the female I love. I am helpless and afraid for those I care for and who are under my protection. Please help us." He continued to pray. It was all he could do. He had to have faith in the plans of the one who created all, and this was the only way he knew how to find it and the answer he needed.